To this very nice conference. I can start with this imaginative correlation. It was 11 September and the first speech was 11 August. No, we are not 11th December, but my question was how to use data in very difficult situation when many academic sociologists say this is a trash, put it into the trash. You don't have representative data, don't say anything about that, please be quiet. But if I invested my activity into the data, I would like to say something, and therefore I engage in that. I will speak about some story and some results from our investigation, which we did just in the days after the 11th September. That was a just-in-time project. That time was not called just-in-time. I used the word firehouse projects, using the quoting of Paul Lazarsfeld, Merton, and other people, Hynek Jerabek, in the late 40s. And that time I was not home. It was very similar like Paola, that people who are not at home are sometimes interested in things which are happen somewhere much more intensively. I don't know why. We collected data in about 1 month, not more, about this first reaction to 11th September issue and about the communication behavior of people. We collected 2,500 completed questionnaires, but in the beginning I was much more ambitious. I should collect 100,000 of responses, but it was not successful. That was, you can see, really not representative. More men than women, more Czech people than foreign nationals, and many people were only this internet people. That means it was really not representative for the whole population of Czech Republic, of the world, of Europe. No. Very young people, people living in Prague, especially people living in not many people in other parts of Europe. And I sent 52 emails this night on the 11th September to 12th, and 7 people responded to me that could help doing some collaborative work. One of them was Eva Weiss, and she was working in network media service, and she and her colleagues prepared the online questionnaire using my Czech version. There was translation into English, translation into German, but the questionnaire was a very quick one. In the afternoon, I prepared in 2 hours a small questionnaire, then was translated into English, then into German, then later, then also in Russian, Ukrainian, Chinese, but it was not in time. That was too late. This first presentation was 10 days after that on a conference of Vapor in Rome, and then the first publication has been made in November 2001 in Prague. Here you can see the data collection. That was the time when in the Czech Republic the majority of people were from our country, usually used this internet approach from their universities or working places. That was not time when many people did have internet access at home, and therefore the peaks in these Mondays, that is somewhere here. But majority of reactions came in the first or second day when it was presented, and then some next wave, and not more. The people are sitting in front of TV screen, not looking too much at somebody is doing some research about it. But if the data are not representative, what can we do? My idea was to use some model of elaboration by Paul Lazarsfeld and use this model of repeated responses. It means if the same pattern of regularities can happen in different subsamples, it could be much more true than if it is some exception. Or you can criticize that, but it was my approach to that. Let's try to repeat, and then we will see if some pattern happen in different cultural and linguistic environments. That means all the findings are not numbers, all the findings are only patterns. And the validity of any statement was conditional, and only the recurrence of identical statements in subpopulation mutually significantly differ. Only in this case we can say this is the finding. What we studied. What happened on September 11th? The label for the research was only September 11th, nothing more. No attack, no tragedy, no some Obama, or nothing like that. Only September 11th. How did people emotionally experience the event? Are there some gender differences? That was the question in the review process, therefore I speak here about that. The first source of information of the event, and some communication model after the issue. Two most frequent answers were the words terrorism and tragedy. You can see we asked these 9 possibilities, and people responded much more using terrorism, much more using tragedy. That was a difference between open question, it is in the text, and the closed question. This difference was interesting. We asked openly the question, you can say any word which you imagine, and after that we ask these specific words. Here you can see 2 models of asking. That was used in a small representative sample in the Czech Republic, 300 people using telephone interviews, and that was a choice. You have to select the most fitting label, most fitting word among these 9 that is using in telephone interviews much more frequently, but we use the other model. To each one word say if it is the most appropriate, least appropriate, or something between. You can see very different numbers, but you can see the very same pattern. On the 2 first places you can see terrorism and tragedy. More details is in the text. The second interesting point was how would you describe your emotion at the moment when you first heard of the events in the United States. In the closed question, the most frequent was I was shocked. I was astonished, I was surprised. You can see here. One of these questions in this review process was if and why we didn't have respondents from around the world, from the Arab world, from the Near East, from Africa. We didn't have. I'm sorry. But there were prepared also some emotional reactions for these Arabs and for these people from some enemies of America. but there wasn't in our sample, but in our sample nobody pleased, satisfied, and nobody was glad. But it was possible, but we didn't collect the data. It must be much better prepared if we jump into such a just-in-time research. For the future followers, I can recommend to have some links to the other countries, to the other websites. Then you can collect. Feeling of fear. Acknowledged, women more often acknowledged being afraid than men. But what was for me interesting, this we can expect. Most appropriate word, I was afraid for women, much more than for men, the opposite for men. But what was not understandable in full, but what was interesting was the difference between fear acknowledgement in Europe and in America. I have not representative data, but this difference between men and women is relatively close. But in Slovakia, the women acknowledge the fear much more than the men. I don't know why, but my first reaction to that could be that that was real danger for Americans and much less real situation for Europeans. But maybe it's different. How you receive the first information about the issue? My findings was that it's not usual that people receive the information using personal contact or telephone contact. In this case was true. Not in so big percentages in other research works, but here it was 20 plus 17%. But also in representative population it was about personal contact and telephone contact about 20% together. It's relatively high. Usually, if in Africa there are killed 300,000 people, nobody called you, nobody tell you personally it's something happened in Africa. But in this case, mother called to children from the next room, please come and look. I was also in that situation. I was sitting, doing my work, and very hard working man in this university came to me and tell me, come and we are listening to radio. You are listening to radio? That's such hard working man. But that was something in the moment when the second aeroplane was pushing to the second skyscraper. And therefore it was important for this man and also to go to me, to tell me personally. Some conclusions from the methodological point of view. We found that 99% of the internet population discussed this event in the USA with friends and relatives. That was something which I didn't expect. And 90% talked about that more than 1 hour. It means it was different. In America it was 9 o'clock in the morning at Manhattan. In Europe was afternoon, 3, 4 o'clock. In East Asia was 22 hours in the evening. That means the scale, how long did you discuss, was relative to the location. It means till the end of the day was for Americans something like 17 hours, but for people in Hong Kong that was only 2 hours. But still the difference was not so big. Americans saved more the time. They usually spoke about less than 1 hour, much more people than in other part of the world, but in Europe usually more than 1 hour. But the main finding was the repetition of this pattern of very long-lasting discussions about that issue. This cultural differences we can see here. About 75% of respondents in the United States discussed this event for 1 hour or longer, and the rest discussed it more than 10 minutes, but less than 1 hour in America. It was some difference. That means the findings could be some interpersonal communication as a primary source of information was in unexpected high percentage. It means that was the second most frequent source for this internet population, and of course the main source was for example media. Majority was sitting in front of TV screen, but the next people received the information using face-to-face communication and telephone communication. But what was the most, in my opinion, most interesting thing was that interpersonal communication in the hours after the attack was the most important activity for the majority of people in many countries around the world. There were not many things. There was some death of Diana, Princess Diana, or some things in history that sometimes happen. President Kennedy assassination and so on. And I am almost sure that the elaboration model is robust enough for the non-standard application we used it for, and the methodological approach that we applied in this case was really the only way in which to analyze and interpret our incomplete, non-representative, but extremely interesting and challenging just-in-time data. Thank you for attention.
Question? Yep.
Very interesting, really, this example of rapid response to an event like that. I would have many questions, but I was just around this issue of interpersonal communication, which I think is very interesting finding about the events. I was wondering whether you had any more detail about with whom people talked to and where I mean, if it was like family members, friends, and where they were located. And the reason why I'm saying that is that, for example, in my case at the time, I had my sister in New York. And it actually turned out that she had just left New York that day, but my first need was to try to get in touch and know about her. And the other thing, also related to personal experience, is whether you control for disruptions in communications, because I remember...
Interruptions?
Disruptions of communications, because what I remember is that for a couple of days, like telephone lines were busy all the time, like my sister managed to communicate by email, but by phone we could reach her like several days later, in fact. So I don't know if you controlled for that in any way.
Yeah, thank you for this question. I know that in America there were many other research works concerning 11 September, usually in public opinion research, not in communications research. And of course this disruption in communication happened in the eastern part of America, definitely. But in Europe, the majority of our data is from Europe. There was no such problems. My guess is that there was some very emotional situation, and therefore it's difficult to say that in other cases it would be possible to use the same approach, because it was really exceptional concerning this emotional situation of many people. People tried to say something to somebody, to speak with somebody because of the symbolic value of that event and about some emotions which were strong at the time. That was the reason why people communicate so much. In the questionnaire was one question, not only the question about what I have here the questionnaire. Maybe I can find it somewhere. So maybe no. Sorry, this is not time for that. In question was not only question about if they discuss with somebody how long, but also did you discuss with more couple of people. It means if you discuss in more groups, and that was positively responded in 20, I guess in 20% of that. Usually people don't go to other group of people speaking about something. To people are sometimes very reserved of that. Maybe this would be some response to your question.
Yeah, Tommaso. On the basis of the experience you had with this work, what would be your recommendation for a researcher who want to create a new questionnaire, knowing from the beginning that will not be representative? So what can you do to make sure that it is as representative or as interesting as possible?
I can have many recommendations. My situation was very extreme. I was in studies in the University of Constance and Bodensee Lake. I did have with me only 52 email addresses, not my computer. At that time I didn't have such a personal computer, and there was only very old computer there, which was not possible to use attachment that time. Therefore, I sent seven requests for translation into English of the questionnaire. I sent it at 6 o'clock and 8 o'clock in the evening, and after 2 hours I came back, and 3 translations came to me, but 2 of them were as attachments. That means that the one professional translator put it into the main screen, and therefore his translation is existing for the future. Then to have very good prepared network in many countries in the world. It means to know the links which you can then put your blinking information about your research. If you have something like 200 such links in China, in Afghanistan, in some in other world countries, it's very, very big advantage. Then to have some network of people who are doing just-in-time research and connect with them in seconds to find some collaborators. That is important. To have money usually is not helping. Nobody can apply for research for something which will happen in the next year. In money is not the response. Maybe in a network of people, in a network of links, that will help very, very much. And if you are experienced how to prepare questionnaire, no problem.
Yes, I was wondering along the same line, if you went further with the methodology. I was thinking about journalists. They are preparing obituary of people who they think they may die in a couple of weeks. So, in fact, there may be some methodological work and network which could be built ahead of time, even if we don't know for which event it will play a role. And my question is, did you think about building a preemptive research network for a topic which we don't know about, but which could be triggered by something, and in matters of hours to be able to gather that kind of information you build through your networks?
Thank you very much. Therefore, I am here, because of this is the first conference of the supporters of just-in-time research. I know something like 7 people from the history of empirical research who did it. Before that, yeah, I tried to do that in Vapor. This is what Association for Public Opinion Research, but there was no too much interest. 2 weeks after our research, Robert Chang translated it into Chinese and did some representative data collection in Hong Kong for 500 people. That was very interesting for comparison, but didn't help for representativity for the globe. I think it would be excellent idea to do some network prepared for such cases which could, of course, happen. For example, no electricity, no electronic connections. Let's start to do some research, but not online in this case. In this case, we must do that using some other devices. I don't know if coal or wood or something like that. But to be prepared, it's very important. But I think the main is the link and networking. Yeah, I think it's the main preparation.
Yeah, but there are many organizations which deals with catastrophe and are ready for the unexpected.
Well, yeah.
But they always focus, of course, on the safety, the people, the life. And it would be interesting, of course, to have something equivalent for the sociology of this event. Although, I mean, we should not be in competitive funding with the one who saves lives, but still, the importance of documenting what's happening when there are worldwide events like this, and there will be others, is probably important. So it means, yes, a network of scholars, but also a methodology which can resist the different communication disruption that you may encounter. And also, I mean, something you did not mention, which I think is important, is how much people in situations which are dramatic situations like that, are they really willing to answer a questionnaire or I mean, it's highly emotional situations. What is the methodology to gather information, despite the fact that they certainly not have, there are other things more important to do than answer about their feelings?
I didn't respond the second part of your question. How to prepare a better methodology. I used only the repetition model of elaboration. I think the very good could be to do comparisons and to say if we compare men and women in different cultural surroundings, the difference is the same or the difference is really opposite. Yeah, this comparative line is also important, but we didn't have enough data for such comparison because we didn't have data about social status of people, only gender, age. The problem was with education because of everybody was highly educated, therefore the differentiation line was not so prepared for that.